What's up, peers, and welcome to the Wasabi Wallet 2.0 release party. We have been tinkering on some pretty cool Bitcoin technology over the last 2.5 years. And now, finally, it's to a point where it's good enough to release. So we're quite excited. A lot of thought and a lot of research and a lot of work from quite many contributors have been part of this software development. And we're quite proud of what we've achieved. So today, big chunk of the team is here for us to celebrate that big monumental milestone to hopefully make that vision of a monetary system that is not just sound and hard and verifiable, but also private for everyday users by default. And I think we've done some quite substantial contributions to that vision of frictionless and effortless privacy by default for Bitcoin by solving a lot of these difficult problems on the client side. And that's what Wasabi Wallet is all about. So maybe Adam, a couple words from you. Can you speak, Adam?
I think you cut out for the last 30 seconds.
Adam, tell us why we're working on 2.0 and what this technology means to you.
All right. Whew, wow, where should I start? I have created the first plans about Wasabi Wallet in 2015, Christmas Eve. And fast forward 3 years in 2018, we actually launched the company and released Wasabi Wallet 1.0, which was the Bitcoin wallet that enabled privacy on Bitcoin for the first time for light wallet users. And the thing here is that enabling privacy is not the same as being able to use a wallet in the same way as any other Bitcoin wallet would be without privacy. We want to have the exact same user experience, and Wasabi Wallet's user experience were quite advanced. It was challenging, but in 2020 we started a research club, a Wasabi research club in January, and we started reviewing every single Bitcoin privacy research paper from up until that point, and often even interviewed the authors of the research papers. Anyhow, when we've done our research on Bitcoin privacy and figured out how we can do better on the privacy side, we also started to completely rethink the user experience of the wallet, and we actually ended up in a very fortunate position here, which I couldn't even dreamt of, that many UI developers are many maintainers of our UI framework are working with us, joined to us on this mission for this cause, and no other software project would even dream of having a single maintainer of a UI framework, let alone two or three, or many contributors to two maintainers, three contributors. And they took this task of redesigning the complete UI user interface of Wasabi Wallet with a goal of actually showcasing the UI framework that Wasabi is written with. It's called Avalonia. And so with Wasabi 2.2, we reviewed all the privacy research that there was and created our own privacy research called Wabi-Sabi. And we redesigned the user experience and the user interface from the ground up. And we did not only achieve our original goal, which is let's build a privacy experience that is exactly as good as any other Bitcoin wallet without a without privacy. But we actually achieved a much larger goal, which was that it actually the single best user experience for a Bitcoin desktop wallet. That's what Wasabi 2.2 has right now, in my humble opinion. So I hope that we can consider Bitcoin's fungibility fixed in a very narrow sense, and all we will have to do left in the following years is to enable more and more type of users and maybe even businesses to have a fungible Bitcoin user experience, to use Bitcoin privately. And when we are done that, then the last thing what we will have to do is fix Bitcoin's portability too. So then we will have quite a ride in the future to try to make things cheaper and faster, probably with the Lightning Network, right? So that's what I think. Please continue the show.
Very nice. David, do you have any insights of the last couple of years? What are you excited about?
Yes, how is my voice? Is it good?
Loud and clear.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so we are sitting here, as you can see, in the Budapest headquarter office. Basically, this was the center of at least the Budapest development here. And a lot of things happened in the last year with the company itself, not just with the software. Different kind of teams formed since we began, because more and more developers joined to the group. We have a marketing team as well beside us. For example, two graphical designer, if I can say that, just to simplify things. So we are improving the software in many other areas as well, like is the minimum required to have a comprehensive software. And all of these efforts are forged into 2.0. You will see the graphical interface is completely changed and tailor-made to this specific purpose, to have a Bitcoin wallet. The most recent features to send and to receive. And by the way, meanwhile enabling the privacy by default for the user. I think it will be a very interesting journey for the user as well, how they will get our user interface. The design team tried to make it as intuitive as possible. Sometimes this was hard to do because we didn't want to have tooltips there in the software and a lot of text. We said that, or the motto was, whenever you need text to describe or to elaborate on something that's not intuitive, so we again and again trying to find an interface that we think it is intuitively working. It will turn out if we were right or not now. So I'm personally, but I don't think I'm the only one, I'm very curious how they will get this, because we were iterating a lot on these kind of on these interfaces as well. So that's about the UI. The Coinjoin framework, the new Coinjoin framework or Coinjoin protocol, which is called Wasabi, is almost opening a new dimension in the same way as the UI changes in the software. For example, one of the biggest limitation for VV1, for Wasabi Wallet 1, was the 0.1 minimum denomination, which was $400 at the beginning when we started Wasabi Wallet. But meanwhile, it worth much more, thus not letting many users to use the wallet. So one thing was that what Adam mentioned, Opera mentioned before, that Wasabi was for power users because there were many advanced features, the coin list, cognitively hard to process UI interfaces, and it was like something like a no-go for a normal user. But 2.0 tries to go over on this. For example, we try to avoid having a coin list in the software, because the coin list was the biggest challenge, as far as I noticed, in Wasabi 1.0 years. So we will try to provide a better solution, showing coin list bold move from our side. We will see how it will turn out. I think we did what we could. So so I use the wallet confidently, at least during the test. I haven't seen a problem with that. So we could say it's a new era, and we did something like nobody else, if I could say that, but not in the manner that we are the first in this, but we are the first to experiment with this, how to have a wallet which is a privacy wallet but not having a coin list inside it. It sounds very good, but I think we were successful. But let the users tell us after the release. So I am full with curiosity how this will turn out. We have been working on this for 2 years, so it's a huge effort from our side. So I'm having positive feelings right now. So I hope it will be very good.
Yeah, it will be exciting for sure. Yeah, there, we kind of shifted the goalpost throughout the 2.0 development era a bit, and the scope of the problem that we were trying to tackle got bigger and bigger and bigger. And to some extent, that's a bad thing, right? Because you fellas waited, well, a long time for a proper release with new features. But on the other hand, that allowed us to really make a more holistic approach to the big problem. And that's a big step. That's a difficult step, and I think we're doing quite well on many fronts. But as always, the more you zoom in, there are numerous little problems and things that can be improved, and that's for one, scary because the software isn't perfect. However, the great thing is that it still works, and it works quite well. And we see all these low-hanging fruits that we can improve in the future, and that will lead to, well, even a greater software. But what we have now is really quite something. It's definitely a big improvement to what we had in the past. And yeah, if this is the new status quo, it can only get better from now on. Then I'm having a pretty bullish outlook on the whole situation. So anyone, any other notes before we press that juicy big red button?
Just that the first release of Wasabi Wallet was done in 2 years of one person working on it, and 1 year of 4 other people started working on that. And this happened in 3 years. And Wasabi 2.2 was actually another 3 years after the initial inception of the idea. 2 years and 6 months. But it was, well, I think over 40 people were working on that, and many people here never even experienced the Wasabi Wallet release. So it's an interesting fun fact there. Time, energy, and effort into making this happen. So I hope you guys are gonna like it.
Yes. So there's no other way to find out if people like it other than to actually ship the code. So how about we do that? David, are you ready?
Yes, we are ready.
So do we have some background music, some fireworks?
Probably gonna be copyrighted, Max.
Drum roll.
Also, David, the stage is yours.
All right, okay, so we have this symbolic here. So
I can smash the table.
Spotty smash the table. I will press the button. And after that, we start the deployment, which will take, I think, a minute, and then the software will be available. So shall I press the button, guys?
Yes.
Press the button. Smash it.
Send it. Easy win. Explosions, confetti, champagne, sunlight. Let the sunshine in and let Wasabi 2.0 in as well.
All right. It's there on GitHub. The website will be refreshed soon as well.
We made it, guys.
Could you imagine?
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, I could not get the website yet.
Well, of course, it's in time.
Blue screen of death.
It happened. Next time, what we need is to order some playing band to play live music in the background for us. while we are waiting. Come.
Thanks.
This is exactly what we did.
So I like to ask the question of what should someone do who is
and you install it, and then you will get the new software. And that's it. It's compatible from bottom to up and from up to down. Spotty, open the champagne. All right. Okay, we are okay. So you just download the software. It will upgrade the existing installation, and that's it.
Yes, it should be as straightforward as any other update that you did to Wasabi Wallet. If you're running an old client, you will get a little notification at the bottom status bar saying that a new update is available. Click that link, it'll show you the beautiful new website, and there download the package for whatever platform you are running. And by the way, Apple M1 Silicon is natively supported, so if you have that, get that dedicated package. And well, you install it, and all your existing wallets will continue to work just as fine. There's no need to import again if you were using Wasabi before. The import should be rather quick, and then you can use Wasabi 2.0 with your existing wallet. Of course, alternatively, create a new wallet, make sure you got your backup recovery words, and then receive some Bitcoin into that wallet, and press play in the auto Coinjoin. It'll ask you what type of mode you want, if you prefer to optimize for privacy, for cost, or for speed. You just check out whichever is the right one for you. And that's basically it. You wait a couple hours and then you can spend your Bitcoin privately by default.
hopefully a couple of hours, right? But what if, is there any way that we are not going to make coin joins in the next couple of hours? Would that be possible?
Sure. I mean, for one, the biggest question is, are users going to download the software? And well, hopefully they are. And if yes, then hopefully they send Bitcoin into their wallets, and then hopefully they press play in the auto Coinjoin. And if all these things check out, then we should have at least sufficient user base to have hopefully quite large coin joins. Then the next big question is, will the server and the client software hold up the stress test of potentially hundreds of users coming online? And will we, not have some basically denial of service? That might be one possibility. Just too many users. I guess that would be a good problem to have. And then it gets into optimizing the code. But we will see. But I'm confident that we'll see something nice on mainnet quite soon. Is someone watching the backend logs to see if there's any successful Coinjoin coordination going on? Maybe someone has a counter of the current registered input number.
We can take a look at it, yes. Adam, can you check the log on the backend? I think we won't have an exact counter there. And like the input registration timeout is 1 hour by minimum. So 150.
One other thing is we have the stats.wasabiwallet.io, which shows you the current download numbers of our GitHub packages. But I checked just now, and unfortunately, there is nothing on the 2.0 release yet. So I'm guessing we might have to wait a bit before that is registered and indexed.
The first data will be on the midnight.
Could you speed that up?
No.
Okay.
But Max, there are other sites, those where you can check the download. It's just not that fancy what we have. Let me check that for you.
20 downloads.
Okay.
So let's maybe talk a bit about the features of this new Coinjoin protocol that we have. Rafe, could you maybe give a short summary of all the features that are specific to the Coinjoin?
I don't know. It's really hard to try to even think of all of them. But I think like the biggest thing is that we don't have that kind of minimum denomination anymore that we have in 1.0. So people with less than 0.1 Bitcoin are actually able to reclaim their privacy now. And even the people with much larger amount than 0.1 are able to do it much more efficiently with 2.0. Overall, like, yeah, the whole Coinjoin protocol is completely different. The privacy of input links or input output links or output links. And yeah, overall, like, I think we still have a lot of work to do, but this is a very, very nice first release, and it should be like a big improvement for Bitcoin privacy in general. Yeah, you guys might want to dive deeper into those.
Yeah, so again, the minimum denomination now is 5,000 sats plus whatever the mining fee is, which is quite nice. So that means you can make small value private payments easily and then Coinjoin the change or make sure that you, well, just have a few coins that are exactly the size that you need them. There's no longer the need that every user has a 0.1 coin, at least. There's now much more possibilities of which denominations you can choose in a certain round. And a lot of randomness of, for example, how many inputs are you going to select or how many outputs are you going to select. And all of this, of course, works nicely by default with our auto Coinjoin robot, that self-driving car that hopefully is not going to make many crashes. But that means that a lot of the advanced decisions now happen under the hood, which is quite nice.
And I think the analogy of self-driving car is actually pretty fitting in here. Like, it's a very interesting technology, and there's only a certain limit that you can test a self-driving car in a test environment. At some point, you just have to put it into an actual street and hope that there's, well, not many casualties. I think it's a very interesting technology, and I think it's the future. But these first steps, these are going to be very interesting, and yeah, this is making history.
Yes, it is. Maybe Jumar, can you give some more insights in the UI? What are some of the cool new features that you implemented?
Hey guys, so yeah, compared to 1.0, I mean aesthetically speaking, it looks a bit more better. Um, what else can I say? The wallet selection as well is much better. uh, and we are using a coherent design language across the app now. So I think that will also help in the user experience as well.
And we have rounded corners now. It looks very slick. Uh,
Oh yes,
maybe
using a gratuitous amount of blur behinds, rounded corners, just to have that modern look across all platforms that we support. Yeah.
one of the other cool small UI changes are things like small animations, which seem to be much smoother. So maybe Jamar, how does Avalonia handle these animations? Why does it look so good?
So yeah, we are building at the foundations we have laid years ago for animations, um, and in upcoming Avalonia release also that will get better with better APIs, render threads, animations and stuff. So yeah, and also we also base some animations from Microsoft's design, So we had that a bit more professional touch now than we had in 1.0.
And it's really well. I'm not sure if it's really great if we get more and more like Microsoft, but probably it is. Their design is quite nice, and definitely what is in Wasabi looks awesome.
I mean, when it comes to design, I mean, the top tech firms really has it on the game, it doesn't get much better than that, sadly.
Well, until now, because Wasabi 2.0 overtops them all.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Lucas, maybe you can give a quick update. What were you tinkering on? What are you excited about in this release?
I'm interested on seeing how it works in under stress. That's something that it's what I want to see. Basically, I'm more excited about the the technical part. I would like to see a huge transaction. I mean, we have been testing and we know it can work with 100 inputs and it can generate hundreds of outputs, but um, I think it can do much better than that, and we need more users. I mean, more users participating. We need people to migrate from Wasabi Wallet 1, I mean, to the Zero Link protocol to the Wasabi protocol. And, and well, that will be something really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. What are your bets that this backend server is gonna run too hot with all the fancy crypto that's going on?
Mm, I don't think so. In fact, even in the worst, because basically, given the remix is free, let's say you don't pay for remixes, so it it if we see, okay, we cannot handle the all the load, right? So we can user that could be.
have been talking in a public place, but I'm very excited.
Oh, that is great. Then we can chat a bit more later. Dan Gould. Oh.
Input links potentially, or new timing attacks the coordinator could do. What's being done to address those concerns?
So in terms of input to cryptography, is that you, or of the protocol in general, is that you register each input under a separate Tor identity, and just a single input. Right? And if you want to register multiple inputs, you create a new Tor identity and register it with the coordinator there. Thanks to the new arbitrary amount eCache system that we're using in Wasabi, this is no longer an issue. That makes it possible on the cryptographic layer and on the Tor protocol layer. And then we have a Poisson distribution of the timing of when you register an output, an input. Well, it's kind of the same for outputs too. And so there is randomness in the timing as well. Register, and here again there is a randomness in that is client side and should. And it is, however, skewed to but still the exact number for an adversary to find out. And then in terms of which inputs are going to be selected, a couple checks in terms of what Anon score do the inputs have, and which amounts do they have, and especially so when we choose a group of possible or potential inputs, we check how many of these inputs come from the same previous transaction, and we try to reduce that count. Coinjoin round, which of course reveals, at least to some extent, a common ownership input or input ownership. However, joins, and assuming that this is quite a large number, it will become more and more difficult to find out which of any given inputs actually belong to the same user. And so here, of course, assuming there is natural anonymity set in terms of real users, this calculation gets more difficult. The exact extent of how difficult it is to find the input clusters now is, difficult to say, but I believe it's quite all right.
Is being preserved.
Yes, and that's
how is that being measured?
I was thinking maybe Aviv should actually reply to this concern, because he's actually, I'm somewhere on the middle, but he's actually in a complete opposite, coming at it from a complete opposite way. So that should be interesting what he has to say about this. Was researching it.
If it's okay, I'll get back to my apartment in 5 minutes, and I'll address the question then. So that's all right.
Thanks.
All right. Then I guess I just give the short version of it, of how I think about it. Is that with Wasabi 2.0 in the beginning, we were trying to find an amount composition scoring system that in a way that we can actually somehow work with number of subsets, trying to maximize subsets of the CoinJoin, or even better, trying to minimize the probability links between inputs, any specific input and any specific output, and any specific output and any specific input. So at the beginning, we were trying to go into this direction because obviously this is the most complete solution that you can have for the amount organization problem. And we did not actually, well, I wouldn't, some people think that we did find solutions to that, but we were not convinced that those things are work and they were very risky. So what we defaulted back to is equal outputs. And what it results in, it still creates a bunch of subsets, but if we see an equal output, then we can be at least sure that, hey, there is ambiguity there. Even if there are changes in the transaction, or more like unequal outputs, these are not changes anymore. Even unequal outputs cannot be followed back, but we are less sure about that. Therefore, it is not included in our anonymity calculations. We only care about equal outputs. So this would be my short version, short version on it.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is since we have standard denominations across multiple rounds now, that means that it often happens that on the input side, users by random chance select inputs that have equal amounts than other users. And this is kind of a mixing on the input side. It's not really designed or optimized for this. It just happens as a side product, but that definitely increases input side privacy as well. Again, but to measure and express that exactly, I guess a bit tough. And yeah. Oh, and another thing to consider is when we consolidate inputs in a Coinjoin, then we take the weighted average for the anonymity score. So let's say you have a large value coin with 10 anon score, and then a low value coin with 3 anon score, for example, then your average weighted anon score would be higher because the large value coin has more anon score. Right? And this would be then the base set where the output side anon score gets added to, which then depends on the number of equal amount outputs. Maybe by now Aviv is in the house.
No, guys, I'm 2 more minutes away. I apologize.
No worries at all.
We can do a
That's
different
okay.
question and then we'll come back to it as well.
Yeah, I was actually trying to give a question to Max before we come back to it. Is that, well, since Dan brought up that you've become the CEO of Wasabi Wallet or ZK Snacks, then this current stream is the first time you are actually appearing as the CEO of ZK Snacks. So how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'm quite excited about it, to be honest. I mean, I love Wasabi as a software project, always have, and its mission and vision behind it. And I've been a user of the client for a long time, and based on that, an enthusiast contributor to the project. And now being on the user side of the backend, I guess I can live that ethos and double down on it. And I will try to give good feedback to the software project in terms of backend functionality, and yeah, we'll hope that ZK Snacks as a company will continue to not just provide incredibly valuable services to its users, but also to continue its, well, I guess, philanthropic contributions to the free and open source software space. I think we're already doing some quite amazing work there, but we can do much more. So I'm hoping that ZK Snacks will be more involved in other software projects, and that Wasabi will continues to be resilient and feature rich and just working well. But to a large extent, it's business as usual. I loved the project before. I love it as much or more now, and I'll just try my best to build something that's useful. And I think we have one of the best teams to make that happen, even though it's a incredibly ambitious and difficult problem to tackle. So I'm definitely not too confident, but I'm hopeful and optimistic.
Can you maybe give an account of yourself? Who are you? How did you get to Wasabi? Where were you before? And what did you hear? So a bit of a history lesson, please.
Yeah. So I'm mainly, I would say, an entrepreneur and economist by trade before Bitcoin. It was always important for me to, well, earn money first and foremost, right? But then coincidentally, you realize that, oh, that means you gotta be useful for other people, and that was always something that I found quite enjoyable. So I then discovered economics as well, the science to become a better problem solver and entrepreneur. And there, after first trying out the Keynesian mainstream nonsense, I thankfully discovered the Austrian School of Economics, and that helped me a lot with understanding the role and the tasks of entrepreneurs and the importance of money. And so then, after studying this, I uh, learned about the problems that the fiat money has, and was eager to find a solution to it. And that led me to Bitcoin ultimately, as a money that is defined, verified, and enforced by the merchants that use the money system. And that's such a genius idea that solves so many problems. The software is so elegantly designed that it's caught my attention quite quick. And the fall down the Bitcoin rabbit hole was steep and harsh, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. And then Wasabi Wallet, I discovered back when it was Hidden Wallet, um, I believe end of 2017, based on Nopara being part of the Block Digest, a phenomenal podcast. There he was talking about the development process, and I thought to try it out. And yeah, love the idea. So stuck around and figured out that it's pretty bad, despite how cool it is. And that there were like 1,001 things to improve that were so obvious. So I stuck around, had conversations with the other contributors, and did some educational videos of how to use it. Eventually answered a bunch of questions from other users, and then got lazy doing that. So I wrote the documentation that I don't have to repeat myself that much. And a bunch of others helped out with making that happen. And yeah, then got more into, let's say, the technical side, reviewing a lot of the pull requests, testing the software, giving the feedback, what's broken, what could be better. And then as well, the research side, really thinking deep about the architecture and the design of the software, about the different tricks that can be used to make it more private, efficient, useful. And yeah, I guess all of that led me here to this point now, where I'm kind of just planning to continue doing what I do, and double down on this open source ethos of scratch your own itch. We're building software tools that anyone else can use, and when we make it better, it's better for everyone else. That's such a massive improvement in resource allocation and wealth that we're creating here. So yeah, I'm in it for the mission, and don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
All right, thank you. Let's get back to Aviv then. Are you here? So what are your thoughts on input links?
Before I get there, so firstly, big congratulations to Max. I can only imagine how a big of a dream this is for you, because I know Max has always been incredibly passionate about this project almost since the beginning, although technically the beginning was in 2013 or even 2015, but he's been in this for a very, very long time. The second thing is that I just wanted to get Dan to maybe articulate more of his concerns. You kind of mentioned a couple of things about timing attack coordinator, and I just wanted you to kind of elaborate on precisely the attack that you're concerned about.
So, like, if I make a payment, how do I make a payment through with Wasabi without making a link to my past history? My concern is if I make 2 payments, unrelated identities, and then later change from those payments gets coinjoined, the change from those 2 payments is still related in the coinjoin that they're both input to, that both the change transactions are input to, linking them, even though the input and the output are not linked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question there. So there will be instances where you do have a wallet with just 2 change payments, and it may be the case that the wallet chooses to select both of those inputs to mix. In other situations, you can imagine where the wallet might have a lot of partially mixed coins or fully mixed coins. And I've already spoken about this, and I think in the future we'll want to have a system where we combine inputs of already mixed coins with those change coins. But the bigger question that you're probably asking is, what is the linkability? Like, I guess, mathematically, that I mean, if the 2 appear in the same coin joins, there's inevitably a link in that they both appear in that coin join. So there's no way to get rid of that.
That's
entirely.
not entirely true, though. Like, there's a link in that they're both in the same coin join, but the probability that 2 related inputs could go to any outputs is not necessarily the same across all inputs, and it's possible that only one subtransaction fulfills a certain subset of outputs, and then you don't have a deterministic link between inputs and outputs, but you still have input links. I don't see that mitigated. It's a concern of mine, not just for change coins, but for any inputs. I'm wondering how that's being mitigated.
Well,
yes. Just as one small note, that once you make a payment, the change output has a 1 anon score, right? And the input selector prefers to have a low count of consolidation of 1 anon score. I'm not exactly sure about the details of that algorithm, but we already tried to reduce the consolidation of 1 anon score coins.
But say you even merge a 1 anon score coin with a coin join output, there could be you could make a deterministic link between those 2 on the input side. I'm not like is.
So let's just.
You're not trying to merge the 2 in the same input.
So so there are several questions here. One question is, if you have 2 inputs that are from 2 transactions where you have 2 change amounts and they both have some link to your identity, and now you want to mix them and they're mixed together, do those 2 inputs have a link? Again, you can I would say that for large transactions, the kind that we kind of expect, the link is very modest, and we've looked at the numbers. For any amount, any it doesn't matter what amount of Bitcoin that you have, on the left-hand side, there's typically thousands of ways that it could be represented as a valid amount on the right-hand side in the form of 5, 6, 7, 8 outputs. If you have, our expectation is something like 200 to 300 inputs and 200 to 300 outputs per coin join. Even if you could hypothetically break down all the valid subtransactions, which we don't think is feasible, barring some crazy, someone being half the clients or a majority of the clients.
Why don't you think that's feasible?
To break down the valid subtransactions in a 200 input, 200 output Coinjoin?
Yeah.
It's just the time that it would take is not is immense.
Computationally too hard is the assumption.
And it's in particular because we have like so many denominations and that users only choose specific denominations. It might have been a different thing if we said users are just deciding their own denominations and they're not cooperating, and then there could be some link. But again, every user, regardless of the amount of Bitcoin they have, will have thousands of ways to represent their particular amount of Bitcoin, whether it's 1 input or 10 inputs, which is the limit, up to 10 inputs. They'll have thousands of ways to represent that as outputs, and that's for every user.
Coordinator side, where there's like a minimum threshold of thousands.
No, so it's we know based on the amount of Bitcoin they have. So this number goes radically down if the amount is really small. So if someone shows up with 50,000 satoshis, then yes, there's almost no ways they could represent that on the output side. But the moment you hit more than I think it's like 10 millibitcoins or 50 millibitcoins, a very small and reasonable amount, then the number quickly grows, and then it starts to decay as you go past like one Bitcoin amounts. Depending on, and again, this also depends on the users and how large their coins are. But yes, we've looked at this, and there are in fact thousands of ways to represent your input, like 99% of input amounts as in 8 coins, 5, 6, 7, or 8 coins on the right-hand side.
Yeah, my question isn't asking about the right-hand side. My question is about the probability that one input is related to another input.
So let's walk through that, right? So how would you? So the way that you would figure out that input 7 and input 12 are linked is that you take all the inputs and you take all the outputs and you break it down into subtransactions, valid subtransactions, right? And you say, I've noticed that input 7 and input 15 or whatever I just said, I already forgot, are always together, right? That's how you find out that input 7 and input 15 are linked, is that they're always together when we break it into subtransactions. But I'm telling you that, and this goes in the reverse order as well, right? You could have 8 inputs, so you can't exclude that from the table as well. And I've been saying this in the research clubs that it's critical that we have coin joins where individuals have more than 8 inputs and ideally 8 outputs as well, precisely for this reason. You're going to have a lot more than one way to represent input 7 and input 15. You're going to have subtransactions where they're separate. You're going to have the subtransactions where they're with other coins entirely. It's not going to be completely without a link. We know that everything is linked to everything. There's some, with exceptions, almost any coin could be associated with any other coin to some degree, when the coin join is large enough, because there are just so many coins to choose from, and there's so many ways you could construct. But this is what I think about. So if you want to talk more about this, I would love to have you join the Wasabi Research Club, or just schedule time and we can talk about this. Is that the only concern? Because that doesn't sound like the coordinator concern.
I'm still not sure how it's addressed. Is there some minimum set? Is there a minimum number of participants for the coin join you enforce, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I try? Can I give it a try and you guys fix it if I say something wrong?
Sure.
Okay, so we either have a coin join round going through every hour or when there's 150 inputs. I think currently it's not every hour, so the minimum is 150 inputs that we're targeting. Let's assume that. So if you have 150 inputs, even if 2 of them are yours, it's very, very unlikely that you're going to be able to link those 2 together in any reasonable probability.
How unlikely? What probability?
It varies. It varies.
Yeah, it
Depending
depends.
on
Okay,
situation.
so is there some minimum threshold? That's what I'm asking. Like, what
So
is there any
technically,
at all, or is it just I should trust you?
technically, the server has a maximum number of inputs, which triggers around all the time. So as soon as we hit the maximum number, the Coinjoin round gets triggered, right? Or if we hit the 1 hour mark, that's the timeout hard constraint, right? That's kind of similar to how we had it in 1.0, either 100 users, the hard limit, upper limit, or the 1 hour timeout, right? Just now the coordinator no longer knows the number of users because he doesn't know input-input linkage, and therefore it's numbers of inputs, which is currently at 300. And we have a minimum input count multiplier, I guess, in the configuration, and that is currently on mainnet set to 0.5. So that means we have 300 maximum, and the minimum is 50% of that, meaning 150. So if after 1 hour, still there are not 150 CoinJoins inputs registered to the current round of CoinJoin, then this will fail, and we start another input registration for another hour, I believe.
Yeah, and a few things to note over here. We have whale pools. So if you have a really big amount, you're gonna probably wait a few rounds, so you're not you actually like mix with the other big whales. So that's one thing. Then the other thing is that you're choosing between 1 to 8 inputs into your coin join. So it's very like
1 to
even
10.
Oh, yeah, 1 to 10. So even if you know that, these two inputs belong together for some weird reason, you still wouldn't be able to, like let's say you get to change outputs from me, and you put these two into CoinJoin round. I still don't know if you have registered even more inputs in there. And also, if you have a change output, it probably has the anon score 1. So you're probably not consolidating these two coins together at this point, but you're actually like decomposing them. But either way, it's very, very unlikely that you're going to figure out these links.
Dan, so I love your skepticism, because this is how I approach things, and thank you for once again letting a meeting that I'm a part of be hijacked into a Wasabi Research Club. That's kind of
Yes.
my goal
Good.
here. Every meeting is a Wasabi Research Club when I'm in the meeting. But so one solution is that you don't perform coin joins with coins with anon set 1, with more than one coin. And an even better thing would be you perform them with maybe one coin that's your change coin, and then if you have any already mixed coins or almost mixed coins, you can begin mixing that coin with those coins as well, because those coins are unlinked. Inputs are not linked by the coordinator because of the Wasabi protocol, and so now it becomes even harder, because now when someone is following your change amount, right, they're not going to be able to reasonably know where that money went on the right-hand side, because you've paired a bunch of more anonymous coins on the left-hand side with the change. So would that be one solution?
I understand more now. I'm still. I'm going to have to read, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not easy.
The solution I was just told is don't coin join with anon set 1 coins, but that's where everyone starts. So
No. Sorry. What I'm saying is that this is the surefire 100% solution, whereas normally it would still, be not very linkable. We just cannot tell you exactly the number. And there are edge cases where those two coins could have a very strong link, like 95% or even 100%. I'm not saying it's broken if you don't do this method. It's just it's about how extreme you want to go in terms of like the certainty.
And just to clarify, Aviv was speaking about prefer not to consolidate more than one coin with one anon score when you register your inputs for a coin join. And again, this check is happening. I'm not sure exactly again about the details, but another observation here is that if we have a kind of deterministic protocol of things like input or output selection, then this somewhat decreases the ambiguity of the round, right? For example, if the adversary knows that any client always only registers a single one anon score change coin, right? That if that's how the client behaves all the time, 100% of the time, then if the adversary looks at a coin join and he sees a single non-standard change input, then he will know that this is the only non-standard change input of this user's input cluster, right? Because the client never selects more than one like that. And so this decreases the ambiguity of what's the input group of that particular user. And then that's why in general, I believe it makes sense to have some randomness here, right? So that you don't say always only pick only one anon score coin, but sometimes occasionally even pick two or three. And this all in all, I think increases the ambiguity, because now an outside observer who only sees the input and output list of that coin join has a much harder time to try to fingerprint what is the behavior of one given user.
I agree.
Let me summarize this conversation, which is how I think about it. I wrote an article called Privacy Guarantees of Wasabi Wallet 2.0. And then I asked the question, what are the privacy guarantees? And firstly, there is a computational hardness in the anonymizing Wasabi wallet, but probably that computational hardness, as quantum computers improve or whatever happens in 100 years, is going to be broken. But there is a second line of defense, which is the subset number of subset transactions, and more importantly, the input and output and output and output. So there are hard privacy guarantees there. But what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is that we don't know exactly what a specific case of Coinjoin resulted in. And finally, this is why we are doing equal outputs, because that's the third line of defense, equal outputs, which, by the way, in Wasabi Wallet 1.0, that was the only line of defense, right? The third line of defense is the equal outputs, right? So that is being proven to work in Wasabi Wallet 1.2. But again, there are those other two things which I know you guys find the second one very, very exciting. And I guess that's it. I'll give you back the word, Max.
Thanks for your summary, Adam.
If I can just add one more thing, there's like 15 additional problems that we've been looking at and discussing. So, I'm personally very open to hearing those problems and like thinking about them. I'm not sure how familiar you are with those other problems, and if you've been sort of following the Wasabi Research Club, but I really encourage you to kind of be a part of that conversation so we can make progress.
Yeah, definitely. Again, this is a really, really difficult problem. And what we have is, I think, well thought through and quite all right. But again, it's definitely not perfect. There's rooms of improvements a lot. And yeah, getting feedback on things like this is very important. So much appreciated, Dan.
Yeah, overall, this is a very good question. And like you saw now, it's not really easy to explain this. So we still have a lot of work to do on making that more efficient.
Anything else, Dan? Any other feedback?
The other thing I heard that got brought up was that you can modify the client not to pay any fee. That's not enforced. Is that actually the case? I hate to ask a yes/no question, but that's that one stuck out to me.
Yeah, that was
No.
talked about it, but it did not end up being the case.
The answer is no, basically. But if yes, no, you cannot. Um, I know what you mean. It's basically what you can do if you don't want to pay coordination fees is split your coins under the what we call the pleb threshold, right? So you can, if you participate with very small coins, you are not going to pay. Of course, you are going to pay more in network fees because you will need more, participate in more rounds with more coins in order to achieve the same level of privacy, right? So you can do that. That is what nothing much was talking about. In fact, he clarified that in a tweet. But I would like to, if that is okay, I would like to answer your previous question, if it is good, because basically it is basically how to guarantee, if you want, that that inputs to input links are not, let's say, easy to see, right, or to discover or to analyze. Well, first of all, we have to, in order to see how good Wasabi Wallet 2 is, we can compare it with the other Coinjoin protocols, right? For example, if you have, for example, the Samurai wallet, right? Well, in Samurai wallet, you have to reveal your wallet, your coins in a transaction zero or initial transaction. So everybody that can read the blockchain or can use a blockchain explorer can see those inputs, right? Something similar, but better happens with join market, because in join market, one input belongs to one of the maker or the taker, right? If it is the first round, right? So you know the input that comes from a previous join market coin join is the taker, right? And the new money is the maker, right? So you can know sometimes the common ownership of the inputs, right? In Wasabi Wallet 1, only the coordinator can know that, because all the inputs goes together in one single HTTP request to the coordinator. So the coordinator can know that, but nobody else can. In Wasabi Wallet 2, no one can know that. Even the coordinator doesn't know that, right? Because all the inputs are registered in with a different identity, right? So basically, in that specific area, Wasabi Wallet 2 or Wabi-Sabi, the protocol, is the best of the best of the best of the protocols, right? The thing is that, of course, we want more and better and better and better and better technology. So that's why we are asking these questions. But in terms of that, there is nothing like Wabi-Sabi protocol. Then we can discuss, if you want, if those links can be analyzed once they are available on the blockchain. Well, it's another discussion that, of course, the answer is not, because that is basically the service that we are providing, right? The linking or the coupling inputs and output. Basically, that is our business.
Well, that's my concern. Is I don't believe that's true right now. The input links. The claim that the input links could only be identified by the coordinator in the past and now can't because they're registered across different requests is just not the case, given either, as Aviv was saying, sufficient computation across a whole coin join to find all of the possibilities, or if you were to if you were to make that computation more efficient in a targeted attack, if you had some idea that perhaps 2 or 3 inputs were most likely to be related, and then you started looking for all the possibilities only regarding those, on chain, I'm not.
Well,
it's not clear to me
yes,
what the guarantee is that those links won't be made. Aren't
well,
there? I'm not sure that they're not any less dangerous than input-output links, because if I made a payment with one Bitcoin, one coin, and then I made a different payment with something that I got from an exchange, maybe I made a donation to Navalny's team in the US, and no value judgment on whether that's good or not. The Putin regime wouldn't like that if they saw that related to a KYC account. They'd be able to identify that transaction with me if they could make the link. Like, these kind of dangers are my concern in shipping this software. And I understand that we're all striving for progress, and there's no perfect solution that exists yet. But I have to voice these concerns because there are real, visceral human dangers that we're trying to prevent.
Yes, but the thing is basically, right, if you can know that once in the blockchain that 2 inputs are related, the only way you can know that is basically analyzing the Coinjoin transaction, right, and finding all the possible decompositions, right? And the problem is not that
the
problem.
Related system input.
Sorry?
You don't need to find all of them for the whole transaction. You just need to find all of them related to that the inputs you're interested in.
You actually would need to find all. If you wanted to solidify that those 2 inputs are linked, you would need to find all. If you wanted to get a good approximation of where the outputs are going, then you're correct. You can just target several inputs and assume that they're from the same person, assume that there are no additional inputs, and say, okay, these inputs here with some margin of error, what are the likely outputs? And you will get a much reduced set of outputs. And there, equal outputs will defend the user, as well as different interpretations of the outputs. But no, if you think 2 inputs are together, you still need all combinations of inputs and outputs and the subset sum problem to say with confidence, yes, they are in fact, combined. There's no way around that.
Involving those inputs and outputs, not all of the ones where they're together, but just involving them. If they're involving something else.
Then what you have when you get all of those involving those 2 is you have likely outputs that are linked to those 2 inputs if those 2 inputs are linked. It's not you're not getting the fact that those 2 inputs are linked. Like, there is no targeted attack on 2 specific inputs to get the link between themselves. Wasabi has more than 100 downloads. That's awesome.
Exactly. Once you find all the possible decompositions that in which those inputs, right, participate, right, you can say, for example, okay, I found, let's say, 1,000 or 100 if you want. Okay, I found 100 possible sub-transactions, right? Well, but it is because you start from assuming the inputs, right? Because you say, okay, because first you have to assume the inputs, but that is completely fake. And even if you say, okay, I want to see how many sub-transactions are possible with these inputs. So in that case, you are assuming the input, you will find a lot of sub-transactions. So you have to also assume the outputs. And if you assume the inputs and you assume the output, then it is a very, very, very extremely biased analysis. In fact, it's not an analysis. It's something that you try to justify your interpretation, let's say. But there are
the job of the prosecution, though. That's what
So
people who are trying to get people in trouble do.
awesome. So let me let me just kind of maybe summarize things. Every person that's done the sort of more research side of Wasabi has come to the conclusions that there's a lot of problems and that there are a lot of dangers, a lot of edge cases, a lot of concerns. The best example is Yuval. Yuval, was extremely concerned about things, and then I showed up a few months ago, or a month and a half ago, to look at stuff, and then I showed concerns. So I think it's not that I'm telling you that everything is without concerns. It's the opposite. There's a lot of stuff to do, and yes, Wasabi could go out and give these like long caveats, like, if you do this and then you do this and then this happens and then your particular concern is this, then this is what you should be worried about and you should know this. On the other hand, there's the fact that, like, what wallets do people have as options when it comes to privacy preserving wallets? What wallet would be like number two? There really isn't a lot to go for, especially for like people who aren't extremely tech oriented and can like manage all their things and have like a really in-depth stuff. So there's just this unhappy, I guess, medium where we just accept that there's like serious problems. We live with them and we think about them, and what you're saying, where like it's dangerous to ship this product, you're right. It's dangerous to ship this product. It's also dangerous not to ship this product, right? So, what would you do? I mean, delay it more? Like I've been delaying. I've been begging people to delay the project.
Sorry, Aviv, but I think that is not the way to go. I mean, we have to answer the question, right? And I'm not now. I don't know if I really understand the question. That could be the first thing to clarify, because I need to understand this in order to answer, right? So let me ask questions, right? To understand the question. What is the difference? I mean, why is in this specific topic, why could be Wabi Sabi different than Zero Link or the version 1 of Wasabi? So why do you think that in this case input can be linked by an external observer, and that was not possible in the previous version? What changed in this regard?
I'm not asking about any change. I'm asking about the security of the product that's being released.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any perfect solution that exists right now.
No,
and that's a concern to me.
but I mean, you have a concern, and I want to address your concern, right? So I need to understand the question, but I want to understand. So
That's
what
what Lucas wants to know is your specific concern is that two inputs could be linked because there's nothing that inherently protects them when they both register in a coin join, right? Two change in outputs are now inputs in a coin join. You're concerned that they're linked together. That's the concern.
Yeah, my concern is that
okay?
because it's knapsack, is this mitigated in the Wasabi 2 or not yet? And it sounds like under some circumstances, if you do some analysis, it could be, but it's not clear.
Well, just to be clear, Lucas is very right about this. The analysis you need to do is the total breakdown of a coin join, which, once you get past like 120 inputs and 120 outputs, you now need special hardware, because for regular hardware, it will take you days to do this. So once you get to 200 inputs, 200 outputs, it's exponentially exponential when you look at the problem. So it's there's and all that gives you is the total breakdown, which again, I personally don't think it's very plausible for more than 160 inputs, 160 outputs. But that's just my but you would need to do that to get the link between those inputs, and it wouldn't tell you those inputs are perfectly linked. Most of the time it would say that there's a probabilistic link. All inputs and all outputs are linked to other inputs and outputs by some probability.
Just to add this, first of all, it is true that it is really hard to find all the sub transactions because it grows, the difficulty grows exponentially. But that is not the what guarantees that it is hard. If you, for example, analyze a much smaller transaction, right? You try to find all the possible decomposition for a 4 input and 4 output transaction, you will find that there are a lot, right? Um, so if you use standard denominations, right? So basically, the thing is that after you find all the possible sub transactions, right? All that are at the order of, I don't know. I should do the numbers again. I don't remember, but it have be billions, right? Okay, now you have to filter, right? Those sub transactions that are using the coin that you are interested on, right? And then you have all the possible sub transactions in which that specific coin can participate, and you can see all those sub transactions contains multiple inputs. So probabilistically, right? You say, okay, this coin can be probabilistically linked to this input, to this input, to this input, to this input, right? So, and what the chances? Well, are very small because the number of sub-transactions are huge. But to simplify this explanation, because it sounds like, I mean, it is objectively true, but to make it even more simple, right? It is exactly the same that you have to do to know the links in Wasabi Wallet 1. It's exactly the same, right? What is the difference? Well, in Wasabi Wallet 1, you know that a user can participate with up to 7 coins. So you can, let's say, narrow the scope of your analysis to find all the possible sub-transactions that have no more than 7 coins, right? So you can say, okay, these are all the sub-transactions that contains more than 7 coins are not possible in Wasabi Wallet 1. So the result of your analysis is better, right? In Wasabi Wallet 2, that is not possible. You don't know if the user is participating with 1 coin, 3 coins, 7 coins, or 50 coins, right? So you have to take all the possibilities into account. Are really in the order of billions and billions, you know? So how probably is to link inputs? I think that is not what Yuval was talking about. What Yuval was talking about is what if the coordinator can perform some kind of something, right? That is what I think. But on the blockchain it's not so easy.
Okay, thanks for answering, guys.
Anytime.
Cool. We have Kiksunil in the chat as well. I'm not sure if you want to speak up, have a question.
I came a bit late because I had other things to do. So I'm a bit out of the loop. I listened to the discussion, but I don't think anything interesting or important comes to my mind. So thank you for offering me this option, but I will think about it.
Cool. Well, has anyone else any questions? Are there any questions in the live chat?
Well, I guess while we are waiting for the for the questions in the live chat. Maybe Max, you could continue asking the people around here about what were their experiences. That was, I think, pretty cool. In fact, let me ask Jose if you are here, because I think you are the newest you're the newest person here, the newest developer in the Wasabi wallet. So what was your impression of the team and everything that's going on here so far?
Well, it's a wonderful environment. To be honest, I haven't had such a soft landing in my developer life. So I'm very, very, very happy to be part of your project. And in fact, I'm very happy because one of the features Wasabi 2.0 has is the search bar, as you may already know. And it's an interesting feature. I'm very happy with it. And it fulfilled me with happiness to see the feature in the release. So I can be happier to see that included as part of the release. Moreover, I'm very happy to be around with such a wonderful people, so young, because I'm an old one. I'm already 41, and it's incredible how you guys get everything over, and how you realize of minor issues. Even you have a feeling of perfection, and that's really, really important. This is top quality product, and I feel it. And I haven't felt this in other open source projects. Finally, it's a quality thing. I think taking everything as a whole, Wasabi is a great place to work in, and I'm really proud of it. And that's it. I think I cannot say anything than good words, and good work, everyone. I would congratulate everyone here.
Yeah, and actually the search bar that you implemented is a perfect example of what I mentioned earlier, that this is a really cool feature, and it's very useful already as it is. But you know, you even had that PR that includes the to search, for example, for transaction ID and address and stuff like this, right? And that's just a glimpse of the potential that we have now, that where we can further refine the wallet experience tremendously. You know, like a feature like, is this address mine? Just paste something in and shows you which wallet it belongs to and the details associated with it. That's really powerful, and it's great to see that, you know, we have those basic foundations in this release. But yeah, it's just one example of many of how much more potential there is in many different aspects. So yeah, thanks Jose for making that search bar happen. It's a pretty cool feature.
It's a pleasure.
Maybe Wisław, how about you? You did some awesome work in the UI as well, including the data grid, the table that we use, which is now very performant and awesome. So what are your ideas of the 2.0 release? Not sure if Wisław is here. Otherwise, Marnix, how about you? What have you been tinkering on? You're also a newer contributor to the project, and you've grown and contributed in quite a couple different areas. So what was your experience like?
Hey, yes, been quite a ride. Yeah, looking forward to this day. Everyone, of course, for 2 years plus, and finally happened. And even this is just the beginning of Wasabi 2.0, of course. And yeah, let's see. But we've already come far, and it's an awesome project. The wallet is great, and yeah, super happy that the day is finally here.
Let me just mention someone who could not be here, who was the person who created most of the UI stuff for Wasabi Wallet 1.2, and now with the team with Wasabi Wallet 2.2. And it's Dan Ramsey. He's a maintainer of Avalonia, the UI framework Wasabi is using, and he's actually having another child today, a real one, not only Wasabi Wallet 1.2. It turns out this was the day when he or she was born. So I just wanted to congratulate him for that.
Likewise, and he's been doing really awesome work. That's one of the things I mentioned earlier, where we were shifting goalposts throughout the progress. We started out with, hey, let's just, upgrade the Avalonia backend and make the exact same user interface, some minor changes, but nothing much. And all of a sudden, no, how about we do it completely from scratch? But that, turned into a behemoth work, but then managed it excellently. And also here to mention just that collaboration of the Wasabi team and the Avalonia framework, like the upstream contributions that we make and the help that we get from upstream to make Wasabi better is just insanely awesome. Like that's one of my favorite parts of the software, of how we collaborate with upstream dependencies. And Dan's doing an awesome job of standing there on both sides and being that link to make sure it works as good as it does now. That's super valuable. So yeah, and he coded basically by himself the first 1.0 Wasabi GUI, just before breaking Bitcoin in Lisbon. And there, yeah, he basically rock started in a couple days or weeks. And now it took him 2 years to do it this time, and a bunch of more code monkeys to help along. But ultimately, I think the difference shows. This is quite slick and robust. But again, lots of potential. It's far from perfect. We have a bunch of work to do to make it even better. And we also have El Sirion in the chat. He is working on some other awesome Chaumian eCash, or well, eCash magic, and that's federated eCash for money warehouses with Fedimint. So, El Sirion, what's up?
Hey, sorry for being late, but didn't want to miss
No worries.
the release. Have been waiting for it for a long time, and really happy that it's finally out. So next challenge is probably getting it to run on NixOS, as always.
Yes, indeed. Not a supported operating system, but would be cool if we can make that happen. In general, NixOS.
There is a someone that created a package for Wasabi. So it's
like
not
already
official, but
that would be awesome.
It is available. In fact, I have
For 2.0, you think?
I don't think so. No. But anyway, as I told you, I use NixOS, so it works perfectly, right? The only thing is that I use my I mean, or you patch the Tor, or use the installed Tor from Nix. But that is the only thing basically that have to change. It works perfectly.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, and looking forward to building a Nix derivation so I can try it out. And
Yeah,
not
that would
just
be
running
awesome, I'm
in
sure.
some weird Steam run environment, as you always do when you don't know how to get something to run.
Yeah. And you know, NixOS is used on a lot of servers, and the kind of headless Wasabi server with a RPC server interface, you know, the rudiments of it are there, but again, it's far from being perfect, and we didn't really spend much time on it before this release. However, I think it's a bunch of people are interested in making that a lot better. So I'm hoping that the future work here will make the life of headless server operators a lot better, including NixOS.
Yeah, it would be an awesome addition to Nix Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about this a while ago already, and one of the big problems, for example, was that you could not generate a new wallet exclusively in the headless daemon because of some weird architecture quirks. So stuff like this was always a bit of a handicap. And I'm not sure how much of that is fixed. But yeah, there are workarounds. But hopefully it's going to be more pretty in the future. But Kixuno has something to say.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if there is any roadmap or if there is any priority or whatever about this topic. So I would like to have an idea like when it could possibly be viable.
Well, that's a super good question. You know, to be honest, for a large extent, we were kind of heads down preparing this release. And we'll have to take a breath and reevaluate now afterwards of what should be the future priorities. But at least for me personally, having a good headless experience is and a good RPC server is going to be overall very important. And I would like if someone could do the work. Just, you know, unfortunately, I'm not the dictator of the free software project, so it gets tough to coordinate people as usual. But I know that Lucas is also interested in this to at least some extent, but he's also interested in much of other topics. So yeah, to be honest, really tough to say about the roadmap right now, other than we have a bunch of ideas and it's going to be super difficult to prioritize on which ones we should focus on.
Although we have a bunch of ideas, I've been working on what comes after Wasabi 2.0, and of course there is no roadmap. But what I was trying to do is that I am trying to collect the ideas and somehow organize them into a coherent representation of them. And I came up with 3 categories. One would be maintenance, the other scaling, and the third is innovation. Regarding maintenance, it's not only just maintenance, it's improving the existing things, right? That's where we will have to pay a lot of attention in the future. But other than that, as we are growing, we are able to get into different things, and that's when scaling and innovation comes in. Now, in the innovation part, that's what all we've been doing so far with Wasabi Wallet. We were trying to make non-incremental, meaningful, significant improvements based on a lot of research. And now I believe we came to a point where significant improvements would be only possible if we could involve the Lightning Network, because in a high level, the only issue left is that low value people who has low amount of value in their wallet, it's going to be expensive, maybe not today, but you know, how do you scale a blockchain? you don't. So eventually it is going to get more and more expensive for low volume people, and that's when the Lightning Network comes in. And that's most likely is the future at this point. I think we can say that. So we started the Lightning Network research grant where we are trying to design a privacy oriented, well, we gave out as a task, research task, to design a privacy, to design privacy guarantees for Lightning Network, or do anything with that, right? Like maybe just do a survey on hey, how private is Lightning Network? Because at this point there are a lot of questions. But anyhow, that's direction we started going. And finally, the scaling part, which is going to be the next step. And scaling means we should enable the usage of Wasabi for more type of users. So, for example, there are four main things actually. But for example, one of the the thing is that, well, guess what? Not everyone speaks English, so it would be cool to have a localization. So that might be the next thing we are working on. It's not probably not as large as a job as the rest that I'm talking about. The other ones are going to other platforms, maybe mobile, or hardware wallet, native hardware wallet Coinjoin integration. So currently people cannot do hardware wallets with Coinjoins. So that's cannot do Coinjoins with hardware wallets. So that would be quite cool if we could, right? Because that's a safer way to store your value, having it in a hardware wallet rather than in a hot wallet, right? Like in Wasabi right now. And the final category, which, well, brings back to your question, would be the developer tools. So there are projects those are interested in using Wasabi Wallet, among some Chinkis, if Dan is still here. So we would like to make things easier for them. And one of the way to make things easier for integrating Wasabi Wallet would be RPC and daemon and well documented with nice user guides, maybe even video guides and tutorials, code project tutorials, right? Like that would be the ideal way to go about that. So that's where it comes in. As you can see, this is the headless mode of Wasabi is certainly in the bucket of ideas that might come next, but we did not decide yet. We don't have a roadmap. It's just an ideas. Yeah.
It's coming in 2 weeks. I mean, maybe a question for you, Elsirion. Like your work on the Chaumian eCash bank is quite nice, and I wonder how you would like how you currently deal with on-chain privacy for your federation, and you know how Coinjoin might help you in the future.
That's actually a great question. Like currently, we don't deal with that at all because right now federated eCash is only a privacy means to gain privacy for users. And users don't really have to think about like the UTXOs of the federation all that much because their main way of interacting with the federation is through Lightning. And there they already have pretty good privacy properties because whenever they send or receive on Lightning, the other side is eCash, and eCash has like best privacy you can get essentially. Like you should have like full anonymity for the sender or recipient, on the eCash side, respectively. And like the main problem currently we're thinking about is Lightning privacy. So for example, if you are sending money to some other Lightning node, then you generally leak their node ID. And so while you don't leak who is the sender, you leak something about the recipient, which might in turn leak something about the sender again. Like there are these complicated problems that, like if there's anything that's being leaked, then that might be in relation to like the user who is using eCash and does everything right, but like if the other side leaks something, then that's a problem. So on-chain, like in long term, what I'd wish for is that all these layer 2 and layer 3 solutions, like for example, federated eCash, or also like Liquid, other federations, like bigger custodians, like single users, that they in the long term will use UTXOs of common denominations. Like that's what you're already doing with Wasabi or Wasabi 2.0. And you have a bunch of common denominations that users can use to create UTXOs in, and then you can spend them again. But like currently, when you want to like pay for goods and services on chain, you'd need to grind down these common denominations because they typically don't fit exactly what you want to pay. But in the future, I imagine like most of the commerce moves into the upper layers. Like your actual day-to-day transferring of money moves to Lightning, moves to federated eCash. And so what you can do on chain is you only send common denominations. And once we hit that point that nobody does arbitrary denomination UTXOs anymore, or like most people don't, then CoinJoins would be so much more powerful, because suddenly you don't have any toxic change anymore. You just create a big CoinJoin that takes like common denominations as inputs and common denominations as outputs. And maybe you add some UTXO for fees that is not of a common denomination because you have to remove a little bit for fees. But in general, you would just recycle like common denomination UTXOs and just keep them in these denominations, making CoinJoins much more efficient. And like that's the future I hope for with Bitcoin. And I hope that Wasabi, it's a great protocol. Like the eCash part makes it very resilient against all kinds of like de-anonymization attacks. Like it's the gold standard essentially when it comes to privacy. And if we figure some things out on the like coin selection side, like which denominations we choose, then I think this can be a protocol that we use for many, many years or decades. So really looking forward to that future.
Yeah, nice. That's really awesome to hear. One thing that I'd also like to bring up is that I think there is a possibility that Wasabi could make great use of something like Fediment, because I do believe that it might make sense to have some custodial layer with cheap and small value payments to help alleviate some of the problems in a CoinJoin. And yeah, I think that, I mean, either that custodial bank can use the Wasabi anonymous credentials as a centralized money warehouse, or of course, Fediment comes in with a decentralized money warehouse in a federation. But in general, the idea might be interesting, but yeah, difficult.
Yeah, I think they're indeed very complementary in nature. Like for big amounts, Wasabi is still the way to go, or like CoinJoins in general, because like you don't want to trust the federation with like hundreds of your Bitcoins, and it probably wouldn't be a good way to mix anyway, because the federation might not be big enough or doesn't have enough throughput, enough flow. And you can probably achieve much higher flow with CoinJoins because people don't have to trust like the coordinator, it's trustless. And on the other hand, if you do small payments, then as you said, like it makes much more sense to trust such an entity. Or No Power mentioned it. Like we have to find ways to make private payments viable. And that's, I think, where Minimint comes in and where it can help enormously. And then there's also like this in between. Like when you pay on chain today, after coin joining with Wasabi, then you get like these common denominations, and when you spend, you get some change. And what do you do with the change? Like you have to get it into some common denomination again. And you will probably get some amount of change from that. And like traditionally, like maybe it's not as big of a problem anymore, because now you can just use the change to pay for fees or whatever. Like your common denominations are small enough. But what you could also do is, instead of generating like really small UTXOs, you just send this change to a federation. And then after you accumulate a bit of such change, then you withdraw like a bigger common denomination UTXO again. Like you do this for a month or so, and then you have like 0.1 Bitcoin again accumulated, you withdraw it, and can do coin joins with this again, because it already has the common denomination, which is great.
Yes, exactly. And just to hone in a bit more, for the Coinjoin service could be improved with eCash, like money eCash, is that, for example, right, if you have these standard denominations, let's say exactly 1.00 Bitcoin, then you might want to register exactly 1.00 Bitcoin on the output side. But the big question, of course, how are you going to pay for mining fees? And here, the current solution is just register more inputs, basically. But of course, the alternative would be pay somehow the coordinator or another third-party service provider to pay for the mining fee by including his own inputs. And that can be done via Lightning, that can be done via eCash payments or Minimint. And I think that, yeah, that's a net benefit for both.
Yeah, I think that's a great vision. Because adding out inputs for fees is just wasteful. And if you already have like common denomination inputs, and you can just get them out the same size again, then it makes so much sense just to pay someone to add their UTXO for fees. And I really hope that there will be more work into that direction.
Yes, very great. Anyone has any other ideas or thoughts or comments?
Maybe the office could give us situational updates, like what's going on. Is there some news?
Yes.
How drunk are you? Did more champagne bottles pop? What's happening?
It was
Did you drink something?
getting back into reality, the pub, actually. Getting us back to the reality. However, Adam is an euphoric laugh whenever he see the GIF, because there is already a GIF about that. So the number of downloads is 189 currently. And the first Coinjoin round will be there in 18 minutes, but only if we will reach the input number of 150. So we will see if that's gonna happen. The number is a bit high. I mean, the minimum required number of inputs is a bit high. If you compare, for example, the number of downloads, it's almost the same. And whoever download the software, it is not deterministic that he will Coinjoin as well. So probably the first round we'll retry, but we will see. At least we will know how we are standing there, because when the coordinator will restart the round, then we will know what was the actual number of inputs at that point.
Yeah, the last I know of is input registration count of 22. That was like 10 minutes ago or something. So probably more by now, but probably not enough to trigger the first round yet. And in this case, if I understand it correctly, we abandon this current round and go into a new round, a new input registration, where anyone can register again. Kiksunil, you have something on your mind. What's up?
So there was discussion about integrating Lightning. I wonder if there are any plans for Zk Next to also provide like Lightning Lightning services like some popular mobile wallets do, or if there is idea to just make it available and let people connect to their own nodes. I mean, not their own, but to the nodes they select themselves at random or based on some recommendation or whatever.
That's a really good question. And in general, it's definitely something that we're looking into because Lightning service providers are another great Bitcoin native business model alongside to Coinjoin coordination. Of course, different in many aspects. If we actually end up doing it, I guess depends on the research that we're doing right now. Because if we find that we can have a lightweight, private by default wallet experience or architecture without any third-party service providers, well, then we will probably do that. However, I'm thinking, and that's just an intuition, is that a service provider will alleviate a lot of problems and frictions in Lightning. And then the big question is, can we design a protocol for this Lightning service provider to perform the service in the most privacy optimized way? And here are things like CK channels or maybe coordinated channel factories or stuff like this. Yeah, lots of possible things, maybe some blinded route path calculations or whatever might be possible. To be honest, I don't know about half of these. So we will see if it's necessary and if we're able to provide a useful service according to our privacy ethos. And yeah, in any case, it's a long way out, so it'll come to you in 2 weeks, of course.
Yeah, one of the things I had in mind is maybe it could be combinable with Coinjoin. So, for instance, it could be a way of dealing with change outputs. So you could Coinjoin and put the change directly into a Lightning channel that is open with ZK-Snacks, which provides a way to then like mix up the amount. Especially if this was implemented on top of Taproot, it would actually improve privacy even of those people who don't use this.
Yeah, for sure. And again, maybe we can do even better, right? And get some block space efficiencies by something like a private channel factory. And that is, of course, great for a Coinjoin coordinator because a channel factory, after all, is just a Coinjoin of many users opening a channel in a single output. But yeah, that also these whole coin swaps and Lightning channels and stuff like this, they as you say, increase the subset ambiguity of every Coinjoin participant, even if they don't use these fancy second layer magic, especially if Taproot is involved. So yeah, it's a big idea. It's a lot of work. So yeah, we will consider. Again, there's so much to do, right? These are all awesome ideas. The question is just which of them do we tackle first? And that's just, yeah, super difficult. But that's why feedback rounds like this are super important, right? Because we see what you guys think is important to tackle next. Adam, do you have anything else to bring up?
No, I'm good.
Anyone else?
Is there any marketing on like Reddit? I know there was like a tweet that went out, but are there any other like campaigns right now to get some early liquidity in?
I think there is. Did not yet confirm, but there should be.
So there's like a Reddit post somewhere with like about this?
I believe, yes. There's also a blog post on blog.wasabiwallet.io. And it's reddit.com/c/Wasabi wallet or something like that.
Okay, so I see a post from 4 minutes ago. Yahya posted.
You see that synchronicity. At least someone is working here. All right, fellas, if there's nothing else to discuss, I would say let's conclude this Wasabi Wallet 2.0 release live stream party. It was nice to get everyone involved with sharing a bit of the story of how we got to this point. And thanks for the people joining with some nice questions. Keep it coming. We're happy for feedback. Let us know what you think of the new wallet, the new user interface, the new Coinjoin functionality, and let's see how we can make Wasabi 2.0 even better in the upcoming versions. There's a lot of room to do that. So I'm eager for all the future contributions and quite bullish on what we're about to build. If you got any final words, please do. Otherwise, we'll end the stream.
Bitcoin to the moon.
Privacy by default.
2.0 to the moon.
If you open a champagne, always make sure you don't have anything above you.
Or put your thumb on top of the cork.
Don't put the cat in the microwave.
For whatever you want, Bitcoin is your digital currency. Improve your skills. Build your dreams. Care for yourself. Find your love. Develop your ideas. Bitcoin is the future, but is visible to all. Your transactions are your business. Reclaim your privacy.